Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Service Desk Plus Masterclass series. This is a series of 7 sessions, with the first one being for service requests, simplified employee onboarding. We intend to maximize your understanding of the product through this series and extract the maximum out of the ITSM product. I am Ashwini Prathabha from the product management team of Service Desk Plus, and today's speaker is going to be Prem Maheshwaran, who's a product expert. He has been working with the Service Desk Plus team for about 8 years and is an expertise and has been implementing ITSM solutions for many customers around the world. He's currently partnering with the product management team and the support teams to help the customers maximize the ITSM investments, and that's what we intend to do today as well. Before we dive into how we're going to be going on proceeding this session, let me quickly tell you about the GoToWebinar. We will be having a live Q&A session at the end of today's session, and you can try ask us any doubts you have during the session through the questions panel in the GoToWebinar or the chat. You can go to the chat session and ask us any questions. We will be answering them at the end of the session. Let me quickly tell you about the masterclass schedule. We will be conducting them in different time zones, basically 3 p.m. EST and three other at 11 a.m. BST, CDT, and PDT. Today's session will be on service request simplified employee onboarding on premises. That is the 14th of May, followed by the cloud one on May 15th. All the sessions will be recorded. The slide deck and the recording will be mailed to all the registrations in a couple of days after the session, and I would like to hand it over to Prem to continue the session.
Thank you so much, Ashwini, for the brief introduction. So, hello all. My name is Prem Maheshwaran. I'm a Service Desk Plus product expert. And today's agenda, we are going to discuss about the challenges in onboarding a new hire into the organization. So, we are going to speak about service requests. And one of the primary service requests that we are struggling with is processing a new hire request. And we are also going to discuss about the requirements that we need to fulfill or tackle the situation. And also, we are going to see how we can build a very effective new hire service template and deploy it into the in your organization. And the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session where we can discuss and find out answers for questions that we have in our mind. All right, processing an employee onboarding request is still a nightmare for most of the service desk teams. So I have implemented Service Desk Plus in hundreds of organizations, and most of the organizations are still struggling to, put together all the teams and make them work in tandem with IT to deliver an onboarding request. All right. So here we have a lot of teams that have to take part. We have to orchestrate a lot of engineers to deliver a lot of services to onboard an employee effectively into the organization. Let me bring you the challenges that we have in onboarding a new employee. First thing first, manual errors in processing. When we don't have an effective mechanism to report or request for a new service, manual errors creep in. When we process requests via email, the conversion of the content of the email into a request might have some miscommunication. That will result in manual errors, and correction will take a long while. So that will delay the process. Role mix-ups in provisioning. When you process a new hire, you may have to onboard users or employees for different teams with different designations and different business roles. So we have to provision the right asset, the right software, the right access so that they can jumpstart their work in the organization. Delayed and costly processing. Once again, it's because of the miscommunication that happens. Conventionally, there'll be a lot of email transactions between the IT team and the hiring managers, which will result in the delays. No oversight or control. Once again, when you work with multiple teams, so when there is a new hire request, you may have to work with the Active Directory engineers, you have to work with the network engineers, desktop support engineers, at times even the non-IT departments like facilities, finance, etc. So you don't have a complete control or a holistic approach, which will let you, not have a full control on the process. Finally, poor escalation mechanisms, right? So when you don't have SLA enforced on service requests, that will result in delayed deadlines, right? People don't care about the time that is given for delivering a service, and finally that will result in missed deadlines. These are some of the challenges, and what do we need to fix the situation? All right. So a solution that should contain relevant provisioning within deadline. All right. So it should have a mechanism to capture the right information from the hiring manager so that we can provide the relevant assets within the deadline that is instructed by the tool. Seamless triaging with other departments. So when you are working with multiple teams, communication is the key there. Now you need to have a channel with which you can collaborate with multiple teams. That is what we call triaging, right? So we have to triage with multiple experts to deliver a service. This even applies for managing incidents. So even if you are managing incidents, you have to collaborate with multiple teams, and the tool should allow you to triage with multiple teams and make them work towards a common goal. Get the right information to the right people at the right time. This is another important aspect of handling a service request, right? So during the beginning of the request or the submission of the request, we might have abstract information about what we are going to deliver. And during the course of handling the request, you will collect more information from the hiring managers, relevant information from the hiring managers, and then you process and proceed further. And during the final stages of the request, you should have all the information right in there so that you can deliver it on time. And finally, improvisation is also a key aspect for any service desk team. So you need to measure what is going wrong. All right, you have to take corrective actions for which you will need reporting. KPIs has to be measured, and you need to know what should be measured and what corrective action should be taken in order to fix that situation. Right? These are some of the things that we require in any ITSM tool. There is a feature called service catalog. So you might wonder, those who are using standard edition and professional edition might wonder, what difference is it going to make, right? So generally, we process everything with one form, the incident forms. So we report incidents, or we process even service requests with incident templates. It is good. So there is a huge difference between just recording or logging a request and managing a request. All right. So when you want to manage a request, so you have got a form with incident template. You submit a request using the incident template, but a service request has a different characteristic. Any service request involves cost or access privilege. So either you ask for an asset which involves a cost, or otherwise you request for privileged access to some of the resources in your organization, both of which requires an approval mechanism. All right. So there is a completely new treatment that you have to give for a service request. So that is why we need service catalog in spite of having forms that you built for incident templates. So with service catalog, you can now collect information, required information in one form. So all the email transactions that happens between your hiring manager and the IT team, the question and answer session that happens via email can be avoided with the features available in service catalog. All right. So once again, once you get the required information, then you have to pass it on to the managers. So stakeholders have to be involved so that we can get their approval. Once the approval is received, we now have to delegate the work to a lot of people. All right. A process like onboarding a new hire requires a lot of people working in tandem with the IT. We have to orchestrate in a synchronized fashion to deliver the work on time without any miscommunications and mishaps. All right. So we have to initiate other tasks that belongs to non-IT departments. We may have to trigger tasks to HRMS systems. We may have to trigger tasks to the finance applications. So all that has to happen from this new hire onboarding request. And we also have to create accounts in business applications, Active Directory, etc. And finally, desktop support engineers have to be onboarded to provision the asset with all the required software to the end user. Right? So we are going to do a demonstration of how you can welcome on board a new employee with the help of Service Desk Plus. I'm going to take you into the product, show you all the features available in the application with which you can utilize the application to the fullest and make this process work like a clockwork. All right. For which I'm going to change my screen. So this is the Enterprise Edition of Service Desk Plus. All right, it has got all the fundamental features, the basic features like request management, problem management, change management, all the ITSM essentials, along with IT asset management. You've got assets, CMDB, purchase, and contracts. All right, so this is the edition that I'm going to use for today's demonstration. All right, first of all, let us take a look at how Service Catalog looks like. So for which I'm going to go click on the Service Catalog section here. All right, so this is how a fully built service catalog will look like to an end user. All right, you can create different template categories and put the templates under the categories accordingly. So if a user wants to ask for a hardware, he can go to the hardware section and request for a laptop. In our case, it's under user management. So these are called as template categories. All right, so under the user management category, we have got different forms. So single user onboarding standard mode is one of the form that I have built to showcase how a user onboarding form will look like and should look like. All right, let's open it. All right, so here, right away, as soon as I open the form, it gives me information about the deadline. All right, so we are setting the expectation right to the end user. We will need at least 5 days to deliver this service. So there won't be frequent phone calls from the end user to track the progress or otherwise, check on the deadlines. All right. So there is one more new thing that you will find in the new edition of Service Desk Plus, which is the total cost. We can also set up a cost for this service. All right. So there will be a base cost, and based on the requirements, if the requirements grow, we can add more to the base cost, and the final cost will be showcased in the end of the request. All right, the first step is to provide the user's name. So I'm going to go with John McLean. So he'll be our requester and the recruiting manager. Now there are few system default fields available in this forms, like the mode of the request creation, request type, status, category, subcategory. All these are like default fields that will be used in any type of request. Along with that, we also identify the site from which the request has originated, the technician to which it has to be assigned, the group, the resolver group to which it has to be assigned. All that can be pre-filled as well, right? And you've got a description section here. So we don't want the description section to be used, right? Because once again, it'll be abstract information and we have to process the information and fill the form manually. So instead of doing that, I'm going to fill it up with questions. So the hiring manager will be given questions and the hiring manager can answer these questions, and all the email transactions are now converted into questions right inside the form. These are called as resource questions, right? The first question is the category of the new hire. So I've got three choices. I'm going to go with permanent. So I want to onboard a permanent employee. As soon as I chose the option permanent, now I am presented with more questions, right? So that way I have made this form interact with the end user to collect maximum information. I'm going to ask for the name of the new hire. I'm going to say John Wick. All right, and I can provide all the other details requested from this section. All right, so one of the important options here is the role. All right, so we have to choose the right role for which we are recruiting the resource. I'm going to go with regional sales manager. Once I do that, you can see here he is being given a resource profile, meaning the type of workstation that has to be given to this user. All right, all that can be pre-filled, and as I chose the type, automatically the cost increases. All right, the base cost is getting added with more resource cost. All right, so as I ask for more services, the cost of the final cost of this delivery will also increase. Once after that is done, you can see the cost estimates. right? And also there's a lot of tasks that has to be delegated to different technicians in order to complete this process. Setting up login credentials, creating an email account, hardware, if there are any privileges that has to be given to the end user, all that can be delegated as task to different technicians. After filling out this form, I can click on add request and in a jiffy, a ticket will be created. All right, it's that simple. Now that you have taken a look at how you can easily make use of a form to submit a new hire request, I would also want you to show how to build one. All right, for which let's go to the admin section. Right, so under the admin section, sorry about the delay, so this installation is in Singapore and I'm accessing it from here in India. There is a bit of a latency issue. All right, so in the admin section for service catalog, we have got a separate section. So this is where you need to go for creating a new service catalog or a template for an existing service catalog. All right, let us get into it. Click on service catalog. That'll give you the list of categories that you have created. So if you haven't done one, it is very easy. So if you'd like to create a new service category, click on service category and you'll get two options. You can either create an IT service category or a business service category. Most of the times we'll be working with IT, so you can go ahead and create an IT service category. Or at times, if you are using it for business services, you can also create business service categories and use the application to process business service requests. Right, I'm going to go with IT service category. All right, I'm going to call this as SAP. Process apps. All right, this is one of the IT service categories that I have in my organization. So once after creating, providing a name for the category, I can even set up the business criticality, which will reflect in configuration management database, business impact, the department which uses this service category. Also, I can provide a custom icon, to give a better user experience in the self-service portal. Right, so once I click on save, it will create a service category and this service category will now reflect in the self-service portal. So you can go ahead and create as many service categories that you want to use. All right, so let us go into the user management section, the service category, and let me show you the one that I have created and used for this demonstration. All right, so if you'd like to create a new template, all you have to do is click on add service. That will give you a canvas with which you can create a new form for any type of requests. Right, all right, so this is the plain canvas which can be converted into a form as per your requirements. All right, you can provide a name for the template, description that will help the end user understand what this template is for. All right, and it'll have all the default system default fields available in there. All right, so in the left side pane you will find a lot of fields, few of which are system default fields. So these are called as default fields, which is available out of the box in Service Desk Plus, and few of custom fields. Few of the fields are custom fields that you can create as per your requirements. If you have a specific requirement, all right, that can be created as a custom field and the field can be added into the form. Right, so that is how I can customize the form as per my requirements. So all these are fields with which I can collect information from the hiring manager or the end user. The next section that we have to give more importance is the resource section, resource info. This is where you can build questions and ask the questions to the end user and make it interactive. To create a new question, click on add resource. All right, I may have to provide the name. You hire demo, right? Click on add resource. Now a wizard will pop up and give you the option to configure questions. So I can provide a resource title, I can say asset information. All right. So this section will hold all the questions related to the assets required for the end users. So I can choose some of the existing questions. So these are questions that I have already built, right? If I want to use the existing question, I can click on the question and the answer can be on different data types. Or if I want to create a question from the scratch, I can click on new question. All right. I can say permanent employee. Now, the answer for this question can be a simple yes or no, right? Binary. You've also got an option, a drop down option, where you can present multiple options and ask the customer to choose from a drop down. You can also provide checkboxes. So if the user can choose more than one answer, it can be a checkbox, or if you'd like to leave it abstract, it can be a plain text as well. So if you notice, there is an option here to make it a PII. So after GDPR, we have to mark certain information as personally identifiable information. So if it is a sensitive information, you can mark this. Once done, any data provided on that field will be irreversibly hashed and stored inside the application. So it'll be like a sensitive information. It will not be available for reporting and other usage. Right? Only you have to get inside the application to take a look at it. All right. So you can also, enable that for the answers. So this is the question building section. So this is where you can create different sections and ask questions, collect information from the hiring manager or any other users in the new hire request. Right. The next step is to publish this template. All right. So this template should be published to the end users. If you want to do that, click on show to requesters. Once I do that, click on show to requester, it will be available for all users. But at times, we don't want to do that. A new hire onboarding template will most probably be used by only managers or executives, correct? So in that case, I can create a user group. So I have already created one. So once I do that, this template will now be shown only to a select audience. Only the managers will be shown with this template. In order to achieve or create a user group, once again, I'm going to take you to the admin section. So I'm going to open it in a new tab. Here, search for user groups. You'll find there. So this is where I can create different groups of users based on different criterion. So I'm going to create one and show you. I'm going to call it as executives. All right. Once I do that, I've got an option to filter my users and add them into this group. So I'm going to go with job title contains executive. Once I do that, anyone with the job title that contains the word executive will be filtered and added to this group. Your CEOs, CTOs, CFOs, everyone who has the tag executive will be added into this filter. Now, this user group can be used for publishing the template. All right. So if I want to show a template only to my executive members, I can create one and associate the template to that user group, and only those users will be seeing the template. So that way I can create a lean service catalog. I don't want to show all the information to all the people, right? Instead, I'm creating a focus group and I'm showing the template only to that focus group. That way it's uncluttered and it's very lean for the end user. All right, so once the template is published, the next step is to configure workflow. So we already discussed, after creating or after submitting a service request, it has to go through an approval process. So that is what we are going to take a look at in the next step. All right. So the next step is the workflow section. The first step in the workflow section is the approval configuration, right? So here you can have multiple stages of approval. So stage one, I can see a list of users who are presented here as available approvers. right? Anyone can be made as a service request approver, but you may have to go into the user's profile to enable this role. All right. So only users who are given the role will be available as a service request approver. So if you want to go with a named user, you can take this route. All right. So to do that, go onto the admin section. All right. Search for requesters. All right. And if you open a requester account and scroll down to the bottom of the account, you'll find the option service request approver. Once I enable this option, this user will be listed as a named user for the approval. All right. I can pick and choose as per my requirements. The next way of doing it is choosing from the roles available in the application. So there are certain roles which will be dynamic. For example, department heads. So based on my department head will be different. So based on the end user's department, I may have to automatically route the approval email to his department head. So that is where organizational roles are used. So by default, reporting to manager is fetched from Active Directory. When you import users from Active Directory, we'll also import the reporting to hierarchy, and we'll build the reporting to managers and user groups. So when a user from a particular team raises a request, you can send the automated notification to his reporting to manager and seek for his approval. In addition to that, there are a few other roles such as department heads, regional in charges, reporting to, site in charges, etc. All these can be constructed under org roles. Once again, I'm going to take you to the admin section, search for organizational roles, and here you can create different organizational roles on different container levels. The topmost container is the organization, which covers the entire organization, which is broken down into different regions, correct? So each and every region can have roles such as regional manager, regional in charges, and at each and every region you have different sites. All right, sites are the physical delivery office as per the Active Directory, or we can call it as the geographical location, right, of your office. So under each and every region, you can have multiple sites, and under each site, you can have different departments. In these four levels, you can create custom roles, right? So department level roles, site level roles, regional level roles, and organizational level roles. Let us go with department level roles. All right. So I have created one called as data protection officer. So data protection officer is a department level role which has to be given to each and every department. Now let us see how I can assign a user to that department. When I click on it, it now shows me all the departments available. So I can choose the department and then allocate a user as the DPO for that department. So that way, a role that I have created will reflect inside department, and I can allocate user to that department. That applies even for the site level roles as well as the regional level roles. This is how I can create custom organizational roles and consume the roles for the reporting to, the approval structure. All right. So dynamic values will be substituted when a user from a particular department or a site creates a request. So that is creating the approval structure. Once after that is done, we may have to also configure the way in which the approval has to be triggered, for which we have got the approval configuration. So here I can choose to trigger the approval mail automatically as soon as the request is submitted, right? All approvers must approve the request can be enforced, all right? All that can be created in here and enabled. Once that is done, I can save the approval configuration that I have created. The next step is to set the expectation to my end user. So if you remember correct, when we loaded the template, when we opened the template, it said it takes 5 days for me to deliver the service, which is configured here under service level agreement. right? So here I have already created different service level agreements. And if you want to create a custom service level agreement for this particular service, then I can click on add new SLA. When I do that, it gives me an option to create a new SLA. I'm going to call it as new hire SLA. And this allows me to set, you know, the due by time for the delivery of a service. So first I can set up the response time. So as soon as a new hire request is submitted, I have to respond within 6 hours. Can be enforced to the technician. Also, fulfillment has to happen within 5 days. Can be enforced on the technician who is assigned with the request. And we have got further configuration to override operational hours, holidays, and weekends. And we have got escalation mechanism with which we can ensure that escalation emails are triggered at the right time, all right, so that we can stick to the deadlines. We have got one level of escalation for the response violation and 4 levels of escalation for the resolution violation. And escalation can happen to the ticket owner, so we can give a chance to the request owner to, resolve the request or provide the service within the deadline that has been set by the SLA. In addition to that, I can also trigger this escalation notification to various members in the technical team. All right. So all the technicians will be listed over there. And escalation emails can be triggered before or after the point of violation. In addition to triggering notification, you can also perform actions such as moving the request to a different group, reassigning the request to a different technician, or upgrading the priority and level. All these are actions that can automatically happen once the point, a violation point, is reached. So after the SLA is created, the next step is to, delegate the tasks. Let us go back to the template that I have created. Service catalog, expand the section, the service category that you have created, go to the template and click on edit. All right, that's loaded. And in the workflow section, we have configured the approval mechanism. All right, I have set the SLA on this request, and then comes the tasks. So this is where you can make use of the task to delegate the work to different technicians. So the poll that I took today to understand how you are doing the delegation of work, is all about this particular feature. So I want to emphasize this feature so that you can make use of tasks to delegate the work to different teams instead of reassigning the request. The level one engineer who is being primarily assigned with the request can own the ticket throughout the life cycle until the closure. But if he wants to, achieve some work from, or extract work from different departments and teams, he can make use of the tasks. So he can create a task and delegate the task to different engineers. All right. So while that is happening, the primary request is still owned by the level one engineer. In case if the hiring manager, asks for an update, the level one engineer can always stay in touch. He can, establish a communication. There will be an accountability, right? And he can also drive the task engineers to deliver the time on work, right? So that is why we emphasize making use of tasks instead of reassigning the request the conventional way. All right. So to add a task to or pre-build a task to a template, you can click on new and then provide a title to the task and add it. So these are some of the tasks that I have created for this new hire template. All right. So if you'd like to pre-enable them, I can check the box and then save it. All right. So these are all the underlying configurations that you will find to create a new hire onboarding template. All right. So you've got the basic form where you customize the form as per your requirements, making use of additional fields and resource questions. So once after you create the additional fields and resource question, you can set up uh, the resource. I'm sorry, the publish the template to the right audience. Once after that is published, you can go into the configuration or the workflow of the template where you can create the approval structure. After creating the approval structure, you can consume the approval members directly from the requesters list or from the organizational roles that you have created, and automatic approvals can be triggered via email. And after that, we apply an SLA for the request to set the deadlines for the delivery. And we can also configure escalation notifications, and to delegate the work to different teams, we can make use of the tasks. So these are all the configuration underpinning a successful service template. Once after this is created, you can roll it out and make use of it to your end users. So let me quickly show you how the end users portal will look like. So once again, I'm going to switch screens. All right. So here I'm going to log in as an end user. So when I log in as an end user, the view of this application will be a little limited. Alrighty. Yep, we have logged in. So this is how Service Desk Plus's end user portal will look like. All right. So the user is given very easy business facing self-service portal. So if he wants to report an issue, you can click on create a new issue, or request for service. You can click on request for new service, and all the templates that you have created will be listed here. So based on his access and view permissions, he can see the template, access the template, and submit a request accordingly. All right. In addition to all the templates that are available in the home page, he can also view solutions. And if there are any announcements made, it will also be available. If the requester is an approver, his pending approvals will also be listed here. He can click on the approval and take actions. So for example, if his department user has asked for a new machine and the notification is triggered to this user, he can open the approval notification and take an action. Alrighty. So that way approvals can be given right from the service template, I'm sorry, service catalog. Right. Let us go back to the application with an admin login. All right. So now that you have taken a look at how to create a conventional service template, I want to show you something more that you can do with Service Catalog. So there are a few things, few tweaks and hacks available in the application with which you can do more. All right. So the first one I want to show you is what I call as a smart mode. So many of us have this requirement. So when we onboard users in bulk, so at times you'll process 15 or 20 user onboarding tickets at once. All right. So it may be a hiring season in your organization. 50 or 100 users might be added into your department. Then you have to process requests in bulk. So that is where we have created a, a different form with a little bit of hack, in Service Desk Plus. So this time around, John, who is the hiring manager, is going to process 5 or 6 new hires at once. So I have built a table right inside this service template, right? So this table will store multiple user information right in this one form. So once again, it's going to be the same exercise. So I'm going to choose the type of hire. As soon as I choose that, it gives me a pop-up, which is once again a customization that I made in this form. It alerts me to ensure that I provide all the information without fail, because it's a permanent employee that I'm going to process, right? So once after I do that, once again, I go with the same exercise. I'm going to say John Wick, my new hire. I'm going to provide him a role, regional sales manager. It automatically, brings in the asset information that I have to provide. Now this time around, I'm not going to add the request. Instead, if you see, there is a small change. A new button is available here, which is called Add Staff. I want to click on Add Staff. Once I do that, an entry is added into the table that I have created. So if I want to add more new hires, I can once again do the same exercise. I can provide the name, all right, and then choose the role. She's going to be the sales engineer, and then click on add staff. Now I have added one more entry. So likewise, if you have 15 users who has to onboard on a given date, I can add all those employees as entries in this one form and then click on add request. And it's going to take a while because when I do that, it is going to, in the background, it is going to create two different tickets, two separate tickets with the information provided in this primary ticket, and it will link those two child requests to this parent request. All right, so that is what we can achieve. So I'm going to show you how I did that. So let us go into the admin section, all right, and dissect that form. So I'm going to once again go to service catalog, user onboarding. All right, so multiple user onboarding smart mode is the form that I've created to achieve this requirement. And how did I do that? Right, so this is where I would like to show you a feature called field and form rules. All right, that's the last tab in the customization area. So if you go under field and form rules, you've got three events under which you can enforce rules in this form. All right, on the form load, as soon as you open the form, whenever you make changes to the field, whenever you update data into the field, I can, based on the data, I can load enforce rules, or while closing the request or submitting the request, which is called on form submit. Alrighty, so here on form some, so we have created a set of rules with which we have achieved this requirement. So if you want to tweak the application, if you want to make it work your way, you can make use of field and form rules to construct scripts, tables, and also enforce policies. So this is like the tweaking area. So this is where you do all the magic to make it much more customized as per your organization requirements. So if you have any specific requirement, you can share it with our support. You can contact our support to support@servicedeskplus.com, and you'll be able to get the requirement done. Right? So that is a smart mode. So when you want to process new hires in bulk, that is how you do it. Now I'm going to show you one more way of handling this new hire request. So this time around, I'm going to call it as super mode, because this gives you super mode abilities right from Service Desk Plus. So let us create a dummy request or a test request with this particular template. So I'm going to show you what it is capable of. So John McLean is going to be our hiring manager. He provides all the information that is required. User administration, new employee, all the basic information is given. Permanent, sales manager, Prem is my, now I have created a request with this particular template. So I want to show you what this template is capable of. So two of the primary tasks that we have to process in order to complete a new hire request. First one is to create an account in Active Directory. Conventionally, we assign a task to an Active Directory engineer, and the Active Directory engineer will manually create a user account as well as an email account in the Active Directory. Right, that is what happens. But this gives room for error. Right, at times he might capture the first and last name wrong, and it also requires coordination. So if the Active Directory engineer is not at his place or is absent, it delays the process of processing, onboarding the request. So instead, if Service Desk Plus is somehow connected to AD Manager Plus, so there is another application called as Active Directory Manager Plus, which can do the stuff with very simple steps. right? You don't need an Active Directory engineer to create an account. Instead, service desk engineers can consume Active Directory Manager Plus to create an account using templates, right? Now, two different applications. So you've got Service Desk Plus where you spend most of the time. You also have Active Directory Manager Plus. So if I want to create an account, I have to jump into the other product. I have to log in and then do the stuff. Instead, it would be great if I can do everything from the request, correct? From the primary request. So that is the whole idea of creating this customization. So under custom actions, I now have an option to create a user account in AD. When I click on that, it gives me a form where I can choose the domain in which I want to create the user. All right, I can also choose a template. So these are templates available from Active Directory Manager Plus. So when you make use of a template, you provide all the information that is required for creating an account. All right, so the templates can be preloaded with information. The templates can be preloaded with, groups. All right, so I'm going to choose the template, provide all the information that is required for processing this request, which is already fetched. If you can see here, the first name, last name, everything is fetched from the request. All I have to do is click on create AD user. So in a click of a mouse, you now create an AD user account in your Active Directory. So the user can go live, as soon as this is done. So this is the first challenge for any new hire request. So to create an AD account in the Active Directory. The second one is provision of software. All right. So you might have provided the machine already. All right. The physical machine is already available. So the user has started using the machine. He is consuming basic resources like email, etc. But he needs specific application. So if he is a designer, he might need the Adobe Creative Suite. All right. So he might request for it, and you may have to manually deploy it. Right, conventionally we used to, you know go ahead to the end users place and then do a deployment, or otherwise we initiate a remote session, access the package from a shared folder, double click and do the installations. But it is time consuming process. You may have to jump between multiple tools to do that. So once again, we have integrated Service Desk Plus with Desktop Central. So Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution which also does software deployment. All right. So from the request, I can click on install and install. All right. I can choose the software. So I'll pick up the software name from the repository that I have created in Desktop Central. So I can build a local repository of all the software that we use in our organization. I can pick and choose the software that I have to deploy. I can choose the target type. So if it is going to be a roaming profile, I can go with user accounts, or if it is going to be a static machine, I can go with workstation account. All right, choose the workstation name. And once that is done, all right, I can click on save. So once I do that, automatically the application will be deployed in silent mode to the end user's PC. All right, I don't have to jump between multiple tools. I don't have to, you know, do a remote session. Instead, right away from this request, I have now deployed a software, and the deployment information will be available under the task section. So that is the advantage of creating integrations. So integrations can be done under the admin section. All right, so if you use more than one ManageEngine products, if you're using Desktop Central, if you're using AD Manager Plus, you don't have to use it in silos. Instead, you can integrate it with Service Desk Plus and also incorporate it in your service handling process. All right, so it is now part of your process. Instead of delegating the work to a different user, you can bind it to the service request. So under the admin section, right, integrations, so this is where you'll find all the integration options for ManageEngine products. So you've got AD Manager, AD Self Service Plus, Desktop Central, on all different bunch of products that can integrate right away with Service Desk Plus. So if you have a third-party application, you don't even have to worry about it. You also have APIs available in Service Desk Plus. So if you use any other third-party tools, you can refer to the documentation of the API available here and make use of custom triggers. All right. So in Service Desk Plus, you have got something called as triggers. So custom triggers is where I can write scripts to invoke API calls to communicate with third-party applications. So if you want to push or pull information from third-party applications, so I can make use of triggers. You can even feed data back into Service Desk Plus. So if you want to customize it and create a flow to coexist Service Desk Plus with other applications, this is where you have to go. So once again, you can always reach our support to get assistance making use of custom triggers. All right. So now that we have seen the conventional, the regular way of processing a service request, a smart mode with which I can process multiple requests at once, and also a super mode which gives me like a control panel ability, a command center ability, where Service Desk Plus becomes my command center and I operate right from my screen, creating user accounts and deploying software. So these are different ways in which you can make use of Service Catalog to its fullest potential to achieve a smooth onboarding process. Right? So Service Catalog is available out of the box in the Enterprise Edition of Service Desk Plus. But if you're using the professional or the standard edition, you don't have to worry. So if you want to use the Service Catalog, you can always procure it as an add-on and then add it to your professional or the standard edition and make use of it to process requests like new hire, provisioning of assets, provisioning of privileges, anything that requires an approval can be added into the service catalog. So some of the best practices that I would like to share with you in making use of Service Desk Plus to its fullest. So provide a simple business-facing description to the service. You have to create the self-service portal as an easy-to-use place. So it has to be lean. It has to be very business-facing. You should not add technical jargons into the self-service portal. So it should be very easily created, uncluttered, and easy-to-use interface for the end user. All right. So approval details and notification rules. So define authorization, escalation, and notification policies. So with approval details, you can automatically trigger approvals to the approving managers. And also notification rules will enable you to establish communication between the IT teams and the business teams. All right. So additional fields, you can make use of the additional fields to process customized information. So if you would like to get the rack location, so which is a very customized field, then you can create a custom field and add it to the form. So anything and everything that has to be customized as per your requirements can go into the custom fields. So publish it to the relevant groups. Once again, keeping it lean and simple is the key goal of making use of self-service portal. So how much ever you try and drive users to use self-service portal, if it is not very easy to use, they are going to call you, right? Or they're going to send you an email. So if you want to avoid that, you have to create a very simple, uh, you know, a self-service portal. And one of the important things that you have to do is show the templates only to users to whom it makes sense. So new hire templates only to the managers. All right. So if iPhone users are very specific in your office, you can show iPhone related templates only to those users. All right. So you can create a user group and make use of it in publishing the templates. All right. Technicians in groups. So make use of technicians in groups. All right. Create tasks and assign it to the resolver group or the technician. So instead of reassigning the request to different technicians and support groups, make use of the task to delegate the work. And finally, SLAs. So create separate list of SLA for service request. So incident SLAs will have a very tight deadline, and we cannot use the incident SLAs for processing service requests. All right, so it has to be a little relaxed. So create a different set of SLA, set the expectation very clearly to the end user. So when they use the form, it should be very clear, and it should set the expectation right, which will avoid a lot of confusion.
So the next masterclass session will be for the same topic on cloud tomorrow, the May 15th. For all of the time zones that we have, that is the 3 p.m. AEST, 11 a.m. BST, CDT, and PDT. The next session that we will be having on is incident management, building a highly responsive service desk, both on premises, followed by the cloud session on the next day. We hope to see you soon on the next sessions. And Prem, let's take a leave from them.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much, guys, for attending this session. There are a few more questions. I could see that some of our users are asking us. So due to time limitations, we were not able to answer everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer all your questions and we'll send it to you via email. right? So you'll receive the recording of this presentation. Also, you'll receive the slide deck and the question and answers published via email. We'll also be publishing it in our website. So hope to see you all in the next session of this masterclass. Thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful evening.